There are numerous platitudes about the power of words, that the pen is mightier than the sword, that books contain multitudes and universes within their pages. When people said that, though, I bet they weren't talking about literal jinn that live in a book or a ghost, both of which happen in this book. Candlekeep Mysteries is coming out. Let's talk about it. What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Geek Pantheon. I am Eric, and today I have for you my Candlekeep Mysteries review. So yeah, the next anticipated book from Wizards of the Coast, containing 17 short adventures that honestly I've been pretty pumped about. I've been excited to flip through these pages, take a look, and see what's in there. And I'm going to do an overview review for you today. So not any deep spoilers, nothing like that. If you are a player coming in to see if you want to pick this book up for your DM to give them some ideas, you can watch the early parts of this video with zero worry about spoilers. You can watch the whole thing, and I'm not going to outright spoil anything. I'll just be talking about inciting incidences and stuff like that. And then in the coming weeks, I'm going to be doing a deep dive how-to on each adventure contained within Candlekeep Mysteries. So you're going to want to stick around for that. Subscribe down below so you don't miss any of those videos. So let's talk about the book as a whole, an overview. So first and foremost, the layout of this book, I really like. I love that they include the writer, designer, and editor at the top of each adventure, so you know exactly who is doing what in this book. I think that the art style for each of these adventures is phenomenal. And this book provides outstanding guidelines for taking these adventures, which are obviously set in Faerun around Candlekeep itself, and ripping them out of that setting and putting them into Eberron, Greyhawk, your homebrew setting, anything like that. They do a good job of being intentional and showing you how to do that. Now, one thing that struck me that I didn't really like is there is no appendices for this book. There's no collection of information or anything like that, which is kind of a bummer because you do get some new monsters, magic items, stuff like that included. And it would have been nice to have had a collected space where if I'm using this book just for the monsters or just for the magic item, I could flip back there and find everything really easily, as opposed to having to go to the adventure I want and then flip to the monsters page. So that's just a layout thing that obviously if you're getting this book through D&D Beyond isn't going to be a huge issue, but for people who like the physical book, I'm not a fan of not including that. But having said that, if you're just looking for a quick, easy, should I buy this book? I would say yes. Overall, there are some phenomenal adventures in here that are going to appeal to all tastes within D&D. If you're a fan of the classic black and white good and evil type narratives, you have that here. If you're more of a fan of morally gray and situations where you have to kind of navigate a fraught situation, that's here for you. If you like wacky, zany, over-the-top, goofy adventures, that is here for you too. There's something here for everybody to get some enjoyment out of these adventures. And for DMs, this thing is a gold mine in terms of things that you can mine out of it to use in your games, whether it's actual monsters, magic items, or just ideas and concepts that you can rip out. This one is definitely a great pickup, and I would highly recommend it. I'm going to start getting into more details about the book, so if you just want to go in blind with knowing literally nothing about the book, stop here. And if you want to stick around, like I said, this is intended to be as spoiler-free as possible while still being able to talk about the book. So anyway, let's talk about the first section of the book, which is Candlekeep itself. So the first section is describing the establishment of Candlekeep and providing some statistics for different people that exist within Candlekeep. There's a lot of lore here and a lot of stuff to dive into. But one thing that's missing is a central narrative connecting all of this together, a reason for the players to be in Candlekeep. Each book, each section adventure has a finding the book section that gives some ideas as to why the players might find that specific book. Like you would go to Candlekeep to research something. It's like if you're trying to find out about lycanthropy, you're likely to find this book that will kick off this adventure. stuff like that. But they spend a lot of time in this book dedicated to describing Candlekeep without giving the players much of a reason to care other than window dressing, which I feel like if we're worried about page counts, I would have much rather seen that dedicated to an appendix gathering all the monster cards, magic items, stuff like that in the back of the book instead of this at the front of the book, just because it doesn't really tie into anything. This initial section doesn't bear any weight on the actual adventures that take place in this book, which was kind of a bummer. I was hoping for some more evident connective tissue to have going on with this entire book, and that sadly just isn't there. Something like Tales from the Yawning Portal, the description of that tavern and the people in it and why players would be there and how the tavern connects to all the different adventures present in that book. That was really well done, and I really like that, and I wish we would have gotten something similar for Candlekeep Mysteries. Okay, and the first adventure in this book is The Joy of Extradimensional Space, which is a first level adventure, and this one kicks things off pretty lighthearted and fun before this book gets decidedly more dark. It is fairly linear. I will say that it is like a one solution forward kind of adventure, which for first level players might be okay if they're new players and you want them to be able to have that kind of focus moving forward, but it could potentially diminish some of the creativity. However, one really good thing about this adventure, it makes fantastic use of magical puzzles and traps as a way to make the adventure challenging without being inherently deadly for first level characters like combat typically is. For first level characters, a lot of times one bad hit in a combat, you're down, whereas magical traps and puzzles allow players to be engaged and challenged in the adventure without posing as much of a threat for everything to go wrong in one fell swoop. So that was a smart choice in the design of this adventure. It is just very linear. So as long as you know that going into it, then you should be good. And before we move on, if you are enjoying this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up down below and subscribe to the channel. Like I said, we have a ton more Candlekeep Mystery videos coming out, in addition to all the other stuff that we do here on the channel that you aren't going to want to miss. So definitely subscribe down below. And if you want to talk about this stuff in real time, I do stream on Twitch every Sunday and Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central and Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. over on twitch.tv/thegeekpantheon. Come by, hang out. I would love to have you. Next up is Mazfroth's Mighty Digressions, which is a second level spell. And this one kicks off with a really fun surprise that leads into an investigation of sorts. And this adventure really does support multiple choices, especially violence through non-violence. Although you do get a sense reading it that non-violence is the preferred solution, but the party is not blocked off from choosing the more violent path. But I really do like, in contrast to the last adventure, this one does open up a lot into offering multiple paths towards success for the player characters to get to the bottom of the investigation, move forward, and figure things out on their own terms. Book of the Raven is the third adventure, and this one, if you are itching to get your hands on Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, then this adventure should tide you over for a fair little bit. This is a classic gothic spooky adventure set in a big giant house, although the one letdown with this adventure is that it's very old school in the sense that the only real impetus for the party to engage with this adventure is the promise of treasure, is the promise of loot, which if you don't run a table for a party that typically engages in that type of gaming, you might need to come up with something additional to hook them into this story, to get them to go through the big spooky house outside of there's treasure there. So that is one thing I will mention for this adventure, is this one requires a bit more work than the previous two on the part of the Dungeon Master to hook in certain types of players. A Deep and Creeping Darkness is the fourth level adventure, and this one, its initial hook is pretty cool because it's an entire town has disappeared on top of a platinum mine, and the party must go investigate it. However, the general sense of curiosity is the only thing to keep the party moving forward. So if you do have a party that may run out of steam, you might need to put some additional hooks in throughout the adventure to keep things going. It does have some really cool NPCs. The art style for this adventure is really great. This one was a standout for me in terms of the art, but the NPCs are cool and memorable. It's just, is it going to have enough legs to keep your party moving forward and not waffling going, why are we here? What are we doing? Outside of just trying to investigate the disappearance of this town. If that's enough, then go forth and you'll have a great time with this adventure. But you may need to plan on some additional hooks to keep the party rolling. Next up is another 4th level adventure, Shemshime's Bedtime Rhyme. I'm not going to try to say that 3 times fast. This one breaks from the normal mold of D&D adventures by front-loading a lot of the information that you as the Dungeon Master needs at the beginning of the adventure, so that you are fully informed when you're reading through the rest of the adventure on who the major players are, what's going on, all that kind of stuff. This break from the typical layout may turn off some readers, but for me personally, I really appreciate and really like it. This adventure does have a clear hook and reason for the party to be engaged with the adventure, although on the flip side of that, it could come across as a bit railroady at times, like they don't have a whole lot of agency and that they are being forced down this path. But much like the previous adventure, this one does have some of the strongest NPC writing in the book, in my opinion. It's really, really well done. Next up is The Price of Beauty at 5th level. Now, unlike the previous adventures, this one has virtually no hooks in terms of for the DM to use, which makes it great to insert into an existing campaign or adventure if you want to use it that way. There's no inherent built-in baggage that you have to try to force into your campaign, but you do have to come up with something because literally the hook for this is that the party is looking for the book, The Price of Beauty. So that is one thing to keep in mind, is with this adventure, there is once again, a bit more put on the DM to engage the party with this adventure. However, once the adventure gets rolling, the hooks internally in the adventure, I think, are strong enough to keep the party's momentum moving forward. Once you get them invested into the story, you shouldn't have a problem keeping them there. And this has some of the more memorable writing in the entire book, just in general, for the adventure as a whole. I thought this one was really well written and a strong addition. Book of Cylinders is a 6th shot adventure that is classic D&D, party being hired by NPC to go protect town of innocent people being harangued by evil raiders / invaders. So if you're looking for a familiar, comfortable adventure to run, this one could be it. However, it does provide some much needed nuance for an evil race. Once again, I'm not going to get into the spoilers of who it is or anything like that, but an evil race that has had some issues in the past with having some real life parallels thrown onto them. This race has been provided some nuance, which is good to see. And this adventure is fairly short. This is the first one that when I read it, I was like, you might actually be able to get this one done in one night. Typically, these adventures seem like they would take 2 or 3 sessions, but this one is really tight, and I could see this being done in a single night. Sarah of the Yellowcrest Manor is the 7th level adventure, and this one kicks off with a ghost named Sarah haunting a book. That's not a spoiler, that's the inciting incident. And the body count only goes up from there. This is the first truly dark adventure in this book. I would go so far as to say that this could potentially warrant a content warning depending on the players at your table. This one is a really dark, grim adventure. Having said that, there's a lot in this. Is a dense adventure in terms of lore, storytelling, world building. You could easily expand this adventure into an entire 5, 6, 7 long session adventure arc, I feel like, because there's so much here. Granted, you as the DM would need to add some stuff in there, but yeah, it is a dense adventure with a lot of stuff for the DM to work with, which I appreciate, but calling this a one-shot may be a bit disingenuous. This could easily be a much longer adventure if you were to add in a couple more things here and there. The 8th level adventure is Lore of Lurue. This is a fairy tale permeated adventure taking place in an enchanted forest. The size of this adventure, in terms of physical space, the map is pretty big, and it comes complete with typical trappings for something like that, like random encounters and things like that. So this one does have quite a bit of scope to it, but it is once again a very familiar adventure taking place in an enchanted forest. The party must fight against an evil corruption spreading throughout the land. One thing though that you may want to get the temperature of your players on is this adventure does some interesting things that I personally enjoy about. Essentially the players are in a situation where they exist within an existing story. I think I repeated a lot of words in that sentence, but it plays with the idea of being part of a larger story and how much agency do you actually have in that situation. So if you have party members that really balk at any intrusion on their agency as a player controlling their character, you may tread lightly with this adventure. I've played with some people in the past that if you take away any level of their agency, they get really upset. So maybe that adventure wouldn't be for somebody like this. Somebody who is a little bit more comfortable with that as a player and understands like certain mechanics can take away your agency, then you should be good. I think this is a really cool adventure, and I like what they did in terms of the thing that I'm vaguely talking about to avoid any spoilers. Candlekeep Dekonstruktion, level 9, Stonky, Donkey Biscuit, Skitter Widgets. If any of those names are things that you hate hearing at a D&D table, then you're going to hate this adventure. But if you chuckled and found that enjoyable, something named Donkey Biscuit in your adventure, then you're in for a really good time. And saying you're going to hate this adventure may not be fair, but this is a wacky, zany, fun adventure, almost a parody of a typical D&D story. And I love it for that. I think it's hilarious. I actually like chuckled out loud to myself while reading this adventure, and it's wacky, it's zany, it's over the top, and I really like it. But to go further into details would be a disservice. This is truly one of those things that you just need to read it to get it. Me trying to convey to you why it's funny won't be funny. So definitely read it, consume it. It's great. It's a really well-written adventure and genuinely funny. Zikran's Zephyrean Tome is the 10th level adventure in this book, and you know, this one doesn't try to reinvent the wheel when it comes to D&D adventure writing, but what it wants to do, it does really well. The only thing that I will say is towards the tail end of the adventure, there is the potential for a lot of combat that could inflate the length of this adventure quite a bit. And so don't think that you could throw this one on a table for a guaranteed single night of adventuring, because we know combat can sometimes really make the game run long. And this one is kind of combat heavy towards the tail end. So that is one warning I would give. But it is a very well written adventure. I do enjoy it. I'm concerned by the amount of combat included in the third act of the adventure. The Curious Tale of Wisteria Lane at 11th level is another very inventive adventure, something that is a lot of fun. The book is a play that the party gets involved in, but it's complicated, but really interesting. It plays with what you could accomplish with magic in a high magic world, and really kind of pushes the boundaries of what you could do with that kind of power. And it engages players' lateral thinking and problem solving skills in a way that is better than just riddles. Like, this is actually fun, and there can be some unexpected solutions that seem to be one way but will lead you down a different path. Violence versus non-violence. It's really compelling and really interesting. And this one I really want to get on a table. This one seems very fun and very inventive and very interesting. At 12th level, we have the Book of Inner Alchemy, and this one is a love letter to the kung fu genre, in my opinion, with my lens. But it does so in a way while being respectful to the source of that genre. This adventure, from top to bottom, from a writing standpoint and a world building standpoint, is something really special. Like, the kicking off point is tight. It makes sense. It will hook the players rather quickly, and then it keeps up a decent pace throughout. And the atmosphere just kind of permeates off the page. It's clear that the writer of this adventure had a great love for this type of story, and really injected that into the adventure. So once again, this is another one that is really special. The Canopic Being at 13th level is an adventure that does a good job of hooking the players in, because it's their own lives they're trying to save, and they have to like do it kind of quickly, and it is fun. This one, the art and the descriptive language used for the world and the adventure and the dungeons the party is going through is phenomenally well done. Really strong showing here. And this one is another really fun adventure. It has some fun twists on the typical mummy lord Egyptian lore stuff, which makes it really engaging and fun to read. At 14th level, we have the Scrivener's Tale, which this one features a ticking clock mechanism to keep the party moving forward, which tastes do vary on that type of mechanic of something being thrust upon the party and then saying, oh, you only have so much time to deal with this, you better get going. And some DMs and players don't mind that type of story, and others really have a distaste for it. So that is kind of the core central thing with this adventure, so be warned there. But for people that enjoy this kind of story, this is a very Fae-heavy adventure with a really cool archfey with the party to contend with. So yeah, I think it's a good adventure if you can get if you enjoy or aren't completely turned off by the central mechanic of having something put on the players that is a ticking clock that they have to deal with quickly. Alkazaar's Appendix is a 15th level adventure, and this one has a ton of different options for DMs to get the party hooked into the adventure. They did a really good job of, if the party needs this, or maybe this could be it, or this, or this, or this. And so it provides a lot of really good options to get the party hooked in and make the DM's life a bit easier. And this is kind of in essence an escort mission. So those of you that have played a lot of video games in the past may need to calm yourselves when you realize what type of adventure this is. But it is really interesting. Once again, multiple paths forward, different ways that you can solve this problem, and the characters in it. I think it's a lot of fun and seems to be something really cool. And the final battle, I really want to play it. I really want to play the final battle in this adventure. So yeah, I'm going to be showing this one to my DM friends and be like, please just run it for me, please. Thank you. And then Xanthoria is a 16th level adventure and a fitting finale for this book with some high level play. This one has a fungus that is spreading, and the party needs to find a way to stop it. And the fungus is a big enough of a threat on a large scale to warrant such a high level party's attention, but still has some fun mechanics to make it interesting to engage with. And it's not just kind of your rote, oh no, there's a corruption spreading, we need to go stop it kind of thing. There is some fun stuff in this adventure to make it different and make it feel like a lot of fun. Like I said, I'm going to be going into all of these adventures one by one and doing a deep dive on each of them, how to play, and more of an in-depth kind of review of what I really think about it. This was just to get you an idea of what I think of each adventure, what I think of the book as a whole, and whether or not you should buy it, which I would say, yes, I think that there's plenty here for any DM to beg, borrow, and steal from. And players, if you're looking to dip your toes into DMing, this would be a great resource to have. A lot of these adventures are very short. They're very simple and straightforward to run, and you would get to pick from a list of them, and then just tell the people at your table, just make a 12th level character, make a 15th level character, make a 3rd level character. Whichever adventure you want to run, you can take this book and be confident in at least a quality adventure that most tables are going to have fun with. Like I said, there were some caveats here and there, so keep an eye out for those. But overall, I think this is a strong addition from Wizards, and I really enjoyed it. What did you think? Let me know down in the comments below what you think of Candlekeep Mysteries if you already have it. And yeah, let me know what you thought of this review. And I intend to just go in order, starting with the Joy of Extradimensional Space and going up through the book, up in terms of level. If you'd like to see me do a different order, then let me know down in the comments down below. I would love to hear from you all. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you next time.